And nearly 1 year ago, Hurricane Maria ripped through the islands of Puerto Rico and Dominica. And today, those islands, they're still trying to recover from the devastation. But thanks to several relief organizations, many people, they're getting the help that they need in rebuilding their homes and their schools.
Okay, so there's the organization All Hands and Hearts Smart Response. It's one of the groups lending a hand. In fact, it was co-founded by supermodel Petra Nemcova. You remember Petra, she's been on our show a million times. She also is a survivor of a natural disaster. We'll talk to her about that, but nice to have you back.
Welcome back.
So this was like a perfect segue with the kids because you're doing some beautiful work for students.
Those twins are so cute.
I know.
They're adorable.
I know.
Beautiful.
So meanwhile, you're also keeping students in mind in other countries that are ripped apart by a natural disaster?
Yes. Last week, we were opening 3 schools, 2 in Dominica, preschool and primary school. And Dominica was impacted by Hurricane Maria and hugely damaged. And we rebuilt and opened the first 2 schools on a whole island. So that was a big celebration for the whole country. And also then the next day we were opening school in Texas, a road school, which is a tuition-free charter school of performing arts for 788 students. We did it together with Tumi, our partner.
That's
and actually,
a brand new school?
So we rebuilt it. So you know, we took what they had and we made it better so that children can go back to school.
So were they in jeopardy of not going back to school?
Yeah, the superintendent, she said when they were walking back after Hurricane Harvey, they found their classrooms 2 or 4 feet high water. They lost their school buses, cafeteria, over 300 computers, all the school supply. So they didn't have anybody helping them. So I was so happy that we could do it together with Tumi, our volunteers from all over the world. We had volunteers from 42 countries coming and working 6 days a week and helping people who had never met and dedicating their life, they're giving their love, their sweat and time to make this possible. And it was a really beautiful day. And this week, on Monday, they went back to school for the first time. So they started their school already.
Oh, they did.
Yeah, I mean, we just had a story on the other day about Puerto Rico and how they finally just got all of the electricity back up and running. An extraordinary amount of time that it's taken. What were some of the obstacles that you had to face in the work you were trying to accomplish?
Yeah, Puerto Rico was extremely challenging. We have actually enough volunteers there from all over the world, 59 nationalities. But from a financing standpoint, there's a huge gap. Actually, last week, the government of Puerto Rico announced that they need just for housing 30 billion, and they have less than 1 billion. And also the big challenge, there have been 166,000 homes severely destroyed, but 55% of those, they don't have the title. So that means that they won't be able to get help by FEMA, and that's 55%. So they will be relying on organizations like ours to help them, or they will try to somehow put the pieces together themselves, but they lost often everything. Home they lived in for 40 years, and they're elderly, many of them are elderly, and the group which we focus on are the most vulnerable, single moms, disabled, elderly, and we really need funding to keep going because we made the long-term commitments after Hurricane Harvey in Texas, after Hurricane Maria in St. Thomas in Puerto Rico, but there is a gap in funding until next spring. So if anybody is happy to help, we have enough volunteers, we have the manpower, we have our incredible staff dedicating 8-10 hours, 6 days a week to change the lives of the families.
But you need the money.
Yeah.
You have the volunteers?
We have the volunteers,
But you need the money to get the volunteers to these places. Like Houston is another place that you've been focusing on.
So Houston would be, so in Puerto Rico we need the funds to keep going and to be able to get families back to safe homes. In Texas we need actually volunteers, and Dominica too. So we have a job for everybody. But in Coastal Bend there is lots of need for volunteers, and Dominica as well. And it's, you know, I don't know if you know, but it takes about 5 years for communities to recover after natural disasters. So it's a long road. It doesn't happen within a year or two. It is about 5 years. And I'm happy to announce actually that for Texas, right after Hurricane Harvey happened, we made announcement that it will stay minimum 2 years, which most organizations, they stay only a couple of months. And now I'm happy to announce we will stay at least 3 years to help families with rebuilding homes, schools, and get them back on their legs as fast as possible, because the amount of suffering they went through, it's really extremely...
you know all too well of what you're talking about, having survived a tsunami yourself and seen the devastation, having to rebuild yourself, the loss of a loved one, so much as well.
Yeah, it is. It's unfortunately, imagine you are 70 years old, and you know, the home which you worked for, it's suddenly gone, and you don't have any more physical strength to rebuild. And what do? And then you cannot get help from anybody else. So there's lots of depression and lots of people, there's lots of suicide. So when we go in, and the families, they started to call our volunteers Purple Angels, because we wear purple shirts, Purple Angels, or the Debris Angels, because we come in right away after the natural disaster. We do debris removal, mucking, gutting, mold sanitation, and then we go into rebuilding of homes and schools. And when the families come back, for example, they have 1 or 2 story high debris, and it's metal and it's dangerous, and they get so overwhelmed. What do we do with it? How do we even go about it? So they just go into deep depression. And when our volunteers come, they get hope back. So we're building physically the structures, but also we are building hope.
Petra, where can people go to donate and help support the organization continue their good work?
It's allhandsandhearts.org, and check it out. We are in 11 locations around the world. And we need your help, we need your time, your love,
and your cash.
Your money.
I'll say it, Petra.
For Puerto Rico, yes.
Okay. It's so nice to have you here, and you are beautiful inside and out.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for sharing the positive news, that we can rebuild together and overcome any adversity, especially when we come together, we can do it faster.
All right.
Thank you.